that is dictatorship. We never expected this from our beloved president, Lusaka. He has very wrong advisors, and we are misleading him on this issue because we don't want this and we don't expect this. So thank you very much. Let me not talk too much, but the courts of law should be independent. These politicians should stop supervising the courts of law so that we can live in order for the sake of our peace of this country and for our future children. Thank you very much. We are hoping to see the PF on the ballot paper. Then they campaign. Whoever wins, that will be our leader for these two by-elections. Otherwise, even for us in Soweto, we are not happy with what our government is doing. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Solwezi, representing there. But if you haven't heard your city, please call and represent them. They want to hear your voice. It starts from there. You never know.
Yes,
next time you find yourself in Parliament.
We mentioned the genuine Zambians like me.
Patriotic.
I wanted to find out they are fake Zambians.
No.
Do you have those?
No, I think it's the context in
you
which
people, you people, Sharon, are not objective. You are fake Zambians.
You are fake Zambians.
In fact, we call you as the not well-meaning Zambians.
Yes, I think there are so many words that we try to use to make this sound a little bit better, but he just went...
We expect every well-meaning.
He went straight to the point and say, us genuine, because there are people that are not genuine. And
but
there
I
are
think
people
he wants to refer to say us as neutral persons.
Patriotic. No, patriotic.
Yeah, where
basically,
we do not have...
patriotic is the word, because when you're patriotic, you know, like I'll give an example of football, for example.
But
it unites Zambians because they are patriotic.
Some of these terms I avoid them because when you say patriotic, people always mistake it for patriotic form.
No. Let's pick this call. Hello, good morning. Hello,
good morning.
Good morning.
Yes. My word is that...
tell us your name and where you're calling us from.
Just a moment, sir.
Ground is uncalled for as Zambia. I think Zambia is known in that route that we are an orderly country that is actually abided by the Constitution. So there is nothing like to panic from both sides or interested parties. And let's come on the table and see what we are supposed to do as a nation. Because at the end of the day, politics is not everything. We have a society. These people are coming from the community where there are families, there are people around, and after the crash coming and all that. So politics is nothing but leadership. So let's not throw out what is supposed to be bring people together, which is leadership. As a nation, we need to put our people that we are living in front, and not throwing maybe branches and the other stuff, trying to see who will speak much, who be so boastful and so particular and all that stuff. Coming back to what is Malanje and the woman Lusambo, I think as I said that this country is actually being respected in the Constitution. It's in black and white. We need to respect what is actually the Constitution speaks. In this area, at this juncture, to say that the ruling government must actually also play a good role in trying to respect what the Constitution is actually saying. Because actually, at the end of the day, it's not about these two people or the contestants who are going to do anything, but the people who are going to show and see the potential in whose leader is supposed to lead you. That is the most their mandate, what they are going to do to the people. I think that is the most important thing.
All right. You can tell us your name and where you're calling us from. Hello? Wow, I'm sure he wants to remain anonymous. Yeah, but anyways, his contribution has been heard. You too can have your say on this show. Just now, let's zoom in. One of the stories that we ran yesterday, children of a 59-year-old Joyce Nkoma, a general worker, was hit by a truck and died on the spot along Lumumba Road in Lusaka, have rejected a 30,000 Kwacha compensation offered to them by an insurance company. The 5 children of the deceased, who was working for a private cleaning company, have complained that even after paying over 1,000 Kwacha to the Legal Aid Board for the services of a government lawyer, their matter has been dragging for over 4 months and are appealing to the authorities to intervene for justice to prevail. The deceased, who had dedicated 3 decades of her life working as a cleaner, met her fate while sweeping Lumumba Road by the speeding truck after it lost control in March 2022. Let's look at that story. When we come back, we continue the conversation with the topic that is scrolling on your screens.
The scenes of Friday, March 11, 2022 were horrific, where onlookers jostled to catch a glimpse of a woman who was hit on Lumumba Road by a truck after it lost control. Joyce Nkoma was working for STEM Investment, contracted by Lusaka City Council to clean the central business district before being hit by a truck belonging to Chain Couriers. The coroner's report indicates that she died from total traumatic sharp and blunt injury due to a road traffic accident. She was buried on March 14, 2022 at Leopards Hill Cemetery. A visit in Old Kanyama compound, where the deceased used to stay with her children and grandchildren, found 2 of her children still coming to terms with her sudden death. They rejected the 30,000 Kwacha compensation from an insurance company for Chain Couriers whose driver had hit the deceased. They have complained that the matter concerning their deceased mother's death has been dragging for over 6 months now.
The UPN is a listening government, so we are requesting for a leadership that can come to our aid. We have really traveled everywhere, every corner of this country for help. No wonder we reached to Legal Aid. We thought it was our last bus stop, just like I said earlier. But in vain. So we are calling upon the leadership of UPND, even the opposition, leadership of opposition, to come to our aid. Please, we really need the help. Our mom, she was a pillar, she was everything to us.
The deceased general worker, who had dedicated almost her entire life to work, was the glue that held our family together.
Kuti titengendera pikingeko tichiteko business yanze kulibe so apatikankhala ko panyumba ili yonse upeza vatipisha we Steve na pali muna vana vambiri maningi chokani Steve na vana vambiri manje tizankhala munjira bwanji zipempa kwa kuti mutidava tikandizireko ne vana wasiza kwanisa kubasunga ine na chepa vantandizireko kuti tisakire kubatike ko chepa konkhala chabe kuti nisungeko bwino vana ku masukulu vanayimirira oloyimira sinenda ku sukulu tonse tinaleka kwenda ku masukulu vana mwalira cheva maivento valuva na vonse bakala stop.
The death of Joyce Nkoma has exposed the plight of the poor in as far as getting justice is concerned. It also exposed the risks that general workers and vendors working along highways face due to heavy traffic of mostly speeding trucks. Tito Kalama, Camnet News.
Welcome back. That is one of the stories that Tito Kalama did for us yesterday. In case you missed it, you can still watch the story at 12, or rather watch our news bulletin at 19 on our Facebook. Remember, we always stream these live programs on our streams. That's Facebook and YouTube. For now, though, we are talking about the topic that's scrolling on your screen. You can call us and send us those text messages as well as WhatsApp, the voice notes, so that we can get to hear your views and what, Patrick? It's Sunguchai. The
contributions.
Exactly, views and contributions.
Yeah, because a lot of people have contributed.
Isn't it the same thing?
It's one and the same thing.
You just want to sound
differently.
Fancy. Just want him to sound fancy.
Yeah. They make it fancy to sound fancy.
Views and contributions. Views and contributions.
Yeah, but it's one and the same thing.
It's a repeat.
Yeah, so looking at that story that was done by Tito Kalama, it also reminds me of the challenges that presents itself to those people who sweep the roads. And if you see the compensation of 30,000, the family rejected it, and this is on account that, for instance, they had to spend over 100,000 on the court process. So that's quite another interesting story.
Indeed, Patrick. Let's look at let's get to talk to one of our callers. Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Your name and where you're calling us from?
My name is Joshua Chitenge Kazadi.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd like to take the one for the High Court verdict.
All right. Where are you calling us from, though?
Hello?
Where are you calling us from, though?
I'm calling from Lusaka.
All right.
You can go ahead.
Hello?
Yes, you can go ahead with your contribution.
Yeah, I'm saying I'm calling from Lusaka. I would like to take the one from the High Court.
Perfect. You can go ahead.
Yeah. I feel that the issues the major culprit in this matter. Because in the first place, they were not supposed to have announced to say that Bowman or Malachi are not eligible to do that. The major complaint, maybe the UPND itself, being a participant, could have maybe taken the matter to court and so that the court interprets whether those people are eligible or not eligible. Now they've saw themselves in a mess, and we can never trust them in any way, and because of their involvement into this. But otherwise, by law, yes, the issue was to interpret whether it's nullification, the difference between nullification and also disqualification. So according to the interpretation, those people were just nullified and they were not disqualified. So going forward, I think both parties, the UPND and the PF and other participants, let them just go into the civil way and continue with this battle on the ground and calling and pointing out who is this and who is that. At the end of the day, that's what suffering for nothing, you see. So now look at the state itself. The UK has so much, I mean, the president had to go that side instead of being at the house, doing the national work. He had to go that side. At the end of the day, it has been paid. You see, waste of money for that matter on the part of the UPND. So going forward, I feel the incident must be condemned, and they should just do their role as a body that just is there to preside over elections and to see that the code of conduct is done properly, not what they are doing to interpret what is done supposed to interpret. They are not a court. Thank you so much. Kazadi Joshua is my name.
All right, Mr. Kazadi, thank you so much for calling us from Lusaka. And remember, you can also call in and give us your contribution. We are discussing the topic that's scrolling on your screen. Patrick, I don't know why you're not reading to the people. What
the topic is that we're getting people's views on the halting of the Kabushi and Kwacha by-elections, respectively, by the courts of law, pending the determination of all petitions on the same issue. Right. So we understand that there are a number of injunction and counter-injunctions.
There are a number of issues, as well as
petitions, as well as a lot of issues pertaining to the court process, and we are just trying out our court systems. It is important for democracy to try out systems. Try out the article.
Busy.
Let the article work and function while it was
them be busy.
Yes, so
let them read. Let them put their mind to work.
Exactly, that's what is happening at the moment, and it's a legal battle that needs a lot of creativity, a lot of experience, because it's not just a legal battle. It's also about political tactics. And we see which team has a better tactic over the other, because so the UPND equally have been putting forth their own legal battle, and the PF has been doing the same. And together, while the court is playing the referee role to ensure that, okay, what you are presenting, okay, this one has a better case than you, all those things. But for now, it has been 2-0 for the PF against the UPND, in that the first one was that the ECZ ruled that, or the Constitutional Court ruled that the issue pertaining to Kabushi elections Boman Lusambo, whether and Joe Malanji were nullified, and that it means also disqualification, the PF won that battle.
Indeed.
The second battle was for yesterday, that they challenged the court to halt the process, the election to stop the election from proceeding.
Until all the court processes
are exhausted, which they also went in their favor. Because it could have also gone the other way.
It actually cut short the campaign trail.
Yes, so it could have also gone the other way, in that if the UPND said, the court would have said, no, we are not suspending this election, it will go ahead as scheduled. It would have been 1-1, the UPND and the PA. But for now, we are looking at as things as it stands, it is 2-0. And we are going to see, as the legal battle continues between the UPND and PF, as they continue to trek before the High Court and the Constitutional Court, which one will be the better of the other in terms of how they put forth their legal brains and their arguments. We understand that social media has been awash with a lot of comments, Sharon. Quite a number of comments have come forth, people bringing their analysis, their perspectives on this subject. Others are saying it is Makebi, because the Makebi is leading the PF team on the other side. But on the other side, we also have the Attorney General and others representing the other side. We also have Justice Minister Mlambo Ahimbi, who has also been making headlines over the same issue pertaining to the elections. I haven't been privy to just get the facts from the lawyers representing the Electoral Commission of Zambia, but we just hope that Miriam Kaiba...
Does it have lawyers?
It has.
Does Internet have lawyers?
It has.
This is one of the questions.
But they have a legal department.
They have a legal department
that also works on their issues as well. But also have, if it's a matter involving the state has to justify through the Attorney General, who's the legal advisor to the President. And looking at this issue, it's so complicated. In that we talk about an issue where there was a campaign. Others were campaigning. Others were busy fighting court processes. And
let's pick this call and talk to our caller. Hello, good morning.
Morning.
Fine,
how are you?
Yes, I'm from
calling from Kasama?
Yes, I'm from Kabushi and Kwacha.
All right.
You can go ahead and contribute.
Yeah, actually, I think that's one voice for this one. Actually, the law has taken in our system. Like the first time, we just know that they should stop the by-election in agriculture, because the woman come there and go around in the first house, the nomination. And then what I'm trying to do is the media actually to stop what the constitution says. You are the you have come home actually. Whereas the media, working with some people in channel, where the misleading the explanation about the by-election, which is and the Kwacha. Saying, yes, everyone wants to be aware, and that's the problem. We need to be aware of the our so we are giving the media so that we actually know the you will go back and we give us the kindly and let them see the post, the people go around and then the first building, the first yard, the post, the hospital. Once like the people are going to aware, not to take the excuse. We need to meet the lawyer, so that we can get one thing at the end. That's my conclusion.
All right. Thank you so much. Did you pick that?
Not really, but he was talking about various interpretations.
Like we need a legal mind to help us understand. But the issue here is that even the legal minds are confused. You think?
No, but that's another issue for another day. But for us, we are basing everything on our story that we covered. And according to what the lawyers give, the legal minds gave us, whatever the interpretation of the court was, is what our story contains, and that's our focus. Others were interpreting these issues on there. We are not here to speak for them, but we can only speak for our story that we covered, that states the facts as they are. That for now, the elections will not go ahead as scheduled, because the court have to exhaust every petition or every issue pertaining to the Kabushi and Kwacha by-election has to be exhausted before it can proceed. So indeed, for now, that's our main focus, and that's where we are focusing. I think
we've tried to speak to different seasoned lawyers like John Sangwa yesterday. Patrick,
even the story we had, yes, is also equally.
John Sangwa actually said, you know, all aggrieved parties, we should go to court and ensure that this thing is interpreted correctly. He's also given us a view on this whole situation. Among other lawyers, really, the more reason why the PF, like you have mentioned, have scored at least 2, you know, out of these 2 cases that we are taken to court is because the arguments are valid based on the Constitution. You know, so really it's only right that we tap into the mind of those guys, whether you like them or not, the Makebi Zulus of that world, you know, the Tutu Angolubes of that world. They're the ones that are representing these guys. And the Attorney General himself, when he makes a statement, we will pick it from him because he's a credible legal mind, Patrick, you know.
Yes, so this is based on whatever the lawyers are talking about.
Let's and everything. Hello, good morning.
Yes, good morning.
Fine, thank you. Tell us your name and where you're calling us from.
This is Wema.
All right, Mr. Moila, go ahead with your contribution.
Yeah, I find it difficult with
Come again? Mr. Moila? Mr. Moila? Mr. Moila? Hello? Okay. The line was pretty bad. Kindly call us again. We want to hear what you want to say.
So let's also zoom in this story and we'll be back on the other side to continue the conversation where the residents of Lusaka's Chawama constituency are demanding for the construction of a mortuary at Chawama First Level Hospital. And ever since the clinic was upgraded to a first level hospital, the facility has had no mortuary. Speaking to Camnet TV News, the residents say they are forced to take dead bodies to the University Teaching Hospital, UTH. So we get to listen to this story and we'll be back on the other side.
Chawama First Level Hospital was commissioned in 2021 and funded courtesy of the support from the Japanese government. But ever since the facility was upgraded, it has had no mortuary, thus raising concerns from the residents. The expansion of the clinic into a hospital was in response to the increasing population, as the strategically placed hospital services people from the entire constituency, including Jack and John Lane compounds in Kabwata and Kanyama constituencies, respectively. The residents of this locality feel leaders are not doing their best to prioritize their needs, citing the failure to identify that a hospital as big as Chawama cannot afford not to have a mortuary, as owing to the same challenge, people are compelled to take the dead bodies to the University Teaching Hospital, UTH.
Ero mumwinango munona mama mochari yalimu Kanyama and the other Marevo ones. But kono kwa tusinizi wanchani chamene china ndengesa kuti konkare kuri be mochari.
So zafunga expansion chabe kuti mochari vantu stand ziyogozi songa pereke muntu pa hospital atia mpereke no UTH. Mishini vichana sifipanga sense kai. Kaingide ni aresi amene.
Others say the hospital equally does not have enough doctors to attend to patients on time and blame the leadership in the area for not paying attention to their desires.
Kansela afuna kuziba mavuto y'abantu muno mu Chawama muno. It's a branch of the government. Then the kansela afuna kusebenzela pamozi na Boma. MP ba smart become. Ulibesha mele ba chitapo ba MP. Vuto ya mele ni kunya ma MP. Utiba sebenzele pamozi na Boma ulibe yayi. Maona ifuna MP na Boma baselenzela pamozi mali umuno mu Chawama ndiye vuto ya mele ilipo problem maningi ili kuli MP otherwise Boma speaker na vati Boma ya selenza tayona muwanie bachita vintu vambili.
To get to the root of the matter, we sought the attention of Chawama Ward 2 Councillor Kama Jawara, who acknowledged that the hospital has no mortuary, but that the issue has been prioritized under the 2023 Constituency Development Fund, CDF.
At the moment, we don't have a mortuary. It was supposed to be considered under 2022 CDF, but unfortunately, the funds that we have cannot meet construction of a school and a mortuary, because remember, CDF is 25.7 million, and 60% of that is for projects, which is approximately 15 million, and we have 4 wards in town. So when we divide that by 4 wards, we are getting approximately 3.8 million, and just the construction of the secondary school has already reached 7 million. So already my friends from other wards have already sacrificed their monies for my sake. So we could not go overboard also with adding the mortuary, because the mortuary was also going to close to 4 million.
From now up to the year 2023, the people of Chawama will have to bear the costs. However, this undermines the attainment of universal health coverage, which seeks to ensure that everyone has access to quality health care without having to face financial hardship. Patrick Soko, Camnet News in Lusaka.
The media is an important fourth estate that seeks to inform, educate and entertain the public through various media platforms. While media personnel are prone to meeting different people in the execution of their duties, sexual harassment in the media industry is pervasive and is not only happening in Zambia but is a global phenomenon. According to a research conducted by Women in News in 2020, 70% of journalists in Zambia have experienced verbal sexual harassment, while 36% have experienced physical sexual harassment. Women in News Deputy Executive Director Jane Godia Thursday paid a courtesy call on the Labour Minister Brenda Tambatamba, where she expressed disappointment on the result of the research.
For Africa, 59% had faced verbal sexual harassment and 35% had faced physical sexual harassment. However, when we zero in on Zambia, the statistics are different and they are frightening, because 70% of women have experienced verbal sexual harassment and 36% have experienced physical sexual harassment.
Ms. Godia also confirmed that some male journalists are also victims of sexual harassment and now wants media institutions to have standard sexual harassment policies which will provide guidelines and standard on how cases brought to management should be addressed.
We try to push for media organizations to have sexual harassment policies that are standalone. This will provide guidelines and standards under which cases that are brought before the management will be addressed. We really hope that every media organization or every workplace in the end will declare that they are zero tolerance to sexual harassment, because that's what we are pushing for.
And in response, Labour Minister Brenda Tambatamba says a ministry is working towards the ratification of Convention 190 on ending violence and harassment in workplaces.
30% of journalists experience verbal or physical harassment. It is common knowledge that reasons why these cases are silenced is fear of victimization and or retaliation against complainants, victims, witnesses, and lack of strengthened whistleblower protection system at institutional levels. My ministry is working towards the ratification of Convention 190 on ending violence and harassment in the world of work.
It is, however, worrying that only 1 in 5 incidences of sexual harassment are reported, which means that more than 80% of incidences are never reported and there is no closure for the victims. Prudence Chota, reporting for Camnet TV News.
This is not a church congregation, but a gathering of University of Zambia UNZA retirees from different departments, ranging from lecturers to cleaners. This group, consisting of those from 2017 to 2021, say a clear payment plan should be communicated to them, as they do not want to fall in the same predicament as many other retirees in the country who have been trying to get their money for years. The retirees, who are 120 in number and owed about 250 million kwacha collectively, were speaking to Camnet News.
Recently, there was a supplementary budget of 22 billion, which the Minister of Finance took to Parliament, and it was approved. And in that component, there was a small component where retirees had been mentioned. Now, which retirees were these in this supplementary budget? If we at UNZA, we cannot be funded and get our money. So, Mr. President, we are appealing to you so that we get our money. We've tried. We've had several meetings with the UNZA management, countless meetings. And then we've been to Minister of Education, met the PS Technical, met the Director of Universities, met the Director of Human Resource. All they have been promising that everything is done to sort out our problem.
The other issue is of superannuation. People were contributing superannuation from the time they joined university. Now, what is there is when they retire, they are not accessing their benefit. If you go to Ziski, they will just tell you that you are from UNZA. We are not attending to UNZA workers because the university was not remitting. So now we have nowhere to go. We see the time when we are joining university, we are told you are supposed to join superannuation because this is the money you are supposed to get before you get the retirement package. Now it has changed. This is the money university was not remitting to superannuation.
Unions in the labor sector have been calling for proper payment plans for retirees to be set up, stating that while many people have dignity while working, they are reduced to destitution after retirement.
Instead, let what retire to pay kulolela tapani nangu chimochilechitika. Nobody to the Mazambiani to Monenico Baka in the Bagadoni. No, go vote to Adimi vote the Badoni. To Monenico to a papa Tafuana.
Camnet News also reached out to the office of the registrar, who requested for a press query before responding to the matter. We will, however, continue to follow the story to see how it unfolds and if the retirees get their money anytime soon. Zipporah Mshala, Camnet News, Lusaka.
Welcome back. You're still watching the Camnet Breakfast, and we are still discussing the topic that's scrolling on your screen right about now on set. We are joined by Operation Young Vote Executive Director, Mr. Ges Nyirenda. He's been very vocal on this topic, and we surely hope that in the remaining minutes we will discuss a number of things that will help educate you and I on what exactly is happening on the topic of discussion. Mr. Nyirenda, good morning.
Good morning, Sharon. Thank you.
Welcome to our set once again.
Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to be here.
Please read for him what the topic is.
Yeah, to just proceed, we are discussing the Kabushi and Kwacha by-elections. There are a number of issues that have emerged on this by-election. And we also did a prediction, Mr. Nyirenda, where we talked about candidates who are not serious should just stay away from the entire process and not withdraw in the last minute. But we have seen that happening. Two independent candidates have withdrawn from the race, citing violence as well as the distribution of money according to them. But we envisaged this, and just your perspective regarding this tendency of withdrawing from the process when it is too late.
Well, for me and for us generally as an organization, it's quite unfortunate that people have decided to take this route or this trajectory of abusing the law, because that's abusing the law. Remember that we never had that particular clause in the Constitution, Article 52(6), which people now are taking advantage, left, right, and center, and abusing. It's quite unfortunate, and I think we need to have citizens that are serious contesting positions of leadership. Remember that the position of Member of Parliament is not just a small position like you are a chairperson in your home or in your community. No, it's a representation of the people. And when you represent the people at that level, you must be a person of a certain caliber. And I think caliber is not built within the house. It is built from where you are. And what we are seeing is quite unfortunate that we have people that can do this and abuse the law. However, we must also know that the reasons that they have advanced, for me, I know that there's a matter before the courts of law, which Gears, has commenced with regards to the court interpreting whether the same Article 52(6) empowers an independent candidate to withdraw and just to interpret that particular law. But aside from that, and we can discuss matters that are in court, we have institutions that have been established to handle the issues that they are raising. Unfair, playing field or uneven playing field, violence, and so on and so forth. This country has conflict management committees, okay, at every district. Each district in this country has what is called the District Conflict Management Committee. It is solely built to ensure that it handles some of these conflicts and misunderstandings amongst players, and also between players and stakeholders. So for me, it really baffles me for one to just say, I resigned. Because did you follow other laid down processes and institutions that could have remedied, that could have redressed or addressed your issues or your challenges? I don't think one just jumping to saying I have withdrawn because of ABCD. I think that is really not a reason that we should be buying as Zambians. I think we need serious people that have requisite caliber. That, I mean, at the end of the day, these are people that are going to make laws in Parliament. And if we have people that cannot, stand the heat just outside with a few things, how do they stand the heat of comprehending with what they are supposed to do in the House?
Let's look at your perspective.
I want to, before we move to the next question, really, I want to weigh in the issue of you, CSOs. You've been very outspoken about this resignation more than that of Lusaka Central and Chawama constituency. I think we've had these in the 2021 general election where elections were postponed because an independent had resigned. Why didn't you understand the law then?
Okay. One thing that we need to also be alive to is that any one of us can interpret the law. Any one of us can. This is why we are talking the way we are talking, because we have a perspective of how we are looking at the law. But the final interpreters of the law are the courts of law, because that's how our governance is. The doctrine of separation of power, where you have the executive, you have the judiciary, and you have the legislature. Now, the judiciary is empowered to interpret the law finally. So it doesn't mean that when you say what you say, you are right, or when I say what I say, I am right. It's a perspective that I'm trying to put forward, to be able to convince even those that are going to be adjudicating the judiciary, as they look at the merits of the case, they will be able to say this is the position in terms of how it is. So let's begin from the issue of whether the ECZ has mandate to interpret the law. The ECZ has mandate. The ECZ is an institution that is mandated to preside over the electoral process and elections. How then do you have an institution that cannot interpret the law? How are they going to accept a candidate to say you are eligible or you are not eligible? Unless otherwise that candidate feels I have been mishandled by the ECZ, then they can take the matter to the courts of law for interpretation. So the ECZ has that mandate. Now, in their mandate, the ECZ is just like all of us. That's why we have the courts of law as the final adjudicators. So the ECZ may say this, which may not be correct, and they may say that which may be correct. And that will be determined, the correctness of that particular thing will be determined by the courts of law. Now, let's begin with Kabwata. There was such a similar incident in Kabwata. The candidate was from UPPZ.
Yes.
Yeah. The candidate first of all withdrew. Remember, and there was that, atmosphere. People saying, no, now the elections could be postponed and fresh nominations called.
Yes.
Before that person resigned, then their withdrawal is just, because they are given, according to section 31(1) and 2 of the Electoral Process Act, it tells you, it gives you a time when you can withdraw from as a duly nominated candidate. So if the law says this and you want to come and do it now, because then the Constitution, in a way, I don't want to begin to interpret the Constitution because this matter is before the court. So the Constitution itself does not provide for that as an independent candidate resigning. I mean, you resign from what? As
a very good example is Lusaka Central, Mr. Nyirinda.
Where
was Lumba? Charity Lumba was an independent. She was independent.
This is what I am saying. This is what I am saying. That matter was not taken to the courts of law. Probably the courts of law would have interpreted it otherwise. It just ended at the decision by the ECZ. So, if there was somebody who was dissatisfied, somebody who felt that this was not correct, they would have taken it.
You were satisfied.
No. Don't push me to whether I was satisfied or not. So,
because we're seeing you.
The truth of the matter is, the courts of law will not attend to anything that is not before them.
Okay.
There could be violence happening. There could be people stealing. There could be corruption. There could be people assaulting each other. As long as the matter is not before them, then they will not begin to say, "Oh, there is that." No. They will deal with the matter which comes before them, and that matter did not go before them. So they would have told us what the stuff was then, and we await even now, because Diaz has taken this matter to court. We await to hear what the courts of law say.
Please go ahead.
Well, now let's also look at you've explained on this aspect of the independence and everything. We just hope we await the court's verdict. Now let's also look at the issue that is before us, Mr. Nyirinda. What are the cost implications of this election being halted? Because we understand that we were slated to hold them on the 15th. That is tomorrow. And just on Wednesday, yesterday, we saw the High Court suggesting that these elections must not go on as scheduled until all the court processes are exhausted. Now, let's look at the other issues that come into being, the cost implications. How are the other candidates who have been inconvenienced, other political parties like the leadership movement, the UP and the UPPZ, how are they inconvenienced?
Well, I can say slightly, because the elections have not been cancelled.
No.
But halted.
The elections have just been halted. And mind you, these matters are coming tomorrow and probably in the next few days, maybe 1 week or so, we may have the final verdict per se. So the inconvenience would be maybe for a week or so, which is not too bad. But the inconvenience will mainly come in depending on the way the courts give their final verdict. If they say this is how things should go, this should be on the ballot, then it means that the ballot papers will have to be reprinted. That is a cost on the state. That is the cost on the ECZ, which is a cost on the state. But also even just other logistics that may be required. But if the courts still say that no, the elections can go ahead and this is how we have ruled, then the cost on the state may not be too much. It may just be issues of time and so on and so forth. But logistically, I think there would not be much cost. Of course, it's an inconvenience because then the time was given 15th of September, and people have other programs beyond 15th of September. So it means that they will need to reprogram themselves and continue to campaign and until the elections are held as it were. But I think over and above for now the inconvenience is not so much, except to say, like I said, depending on the ruling of the High Court.
Our constitution, Ms. Nirenda, clearly...
Which again, the constitution of the decision of the High Court is subject to, appeal.
Appeal.
It can be appealed
so really, this speaks volumes about our constitution and the confusion that it brings. Different legal minds and interpreting this differently, making it worse. Us, the lay people, we don't even understand the law probably the way they do. They're confusing us. What do you make of the constitution and how urgent do we need reforms as a country?
Well, first of all, Sharon and Comrade Soko, let me put it this way, that we shouldn't be confused by the legal minds. We shouldn't. Remember, the constitution is just a document of principles that we have set for ourselves, so that we live orderly, okay? And it doesn't mean, and I must be very clear here, it doesn't mean that when the court gives a final verdict, then that is the correct position. It doesn't mean that. It could be, because the issue is that we just need to live orderly, okay? You agree with me that today there are people who are serving sentences, not because they committed crimes, okay, but because the orderliness of living is such that it was they were found. The evidence that was adduced then was that they committed even when they did not, okay, because at the end of the day, the person that knows that they have committed is when you see them, when you catch them red-handed, but where you have just this evidence produced and so on, and sometimes people are serving sentences not because, like I said, they have committed, but because probably they have failed to defend themselves before the courts of law. And then because we need to live orderly, there's none of us who is above the law. All of us are under the law. So then the law will prevail, and the law is such that it is interpreted according to what we have given ourselves as a country, is interpreted finally by the courts of law. So what the courts of law say is what is final. Okay, whether you like it or not, this is why you have a decision made by the High Court. It goes to the Supreme Court or to the Constitutional Court. They change it. We have seen things, where the High Court has ruled this way. For instance, I think it was the issue of is it Lusaka Central seat that was, but the High Court ruled that it be nullified. When it went to the Constitutional Court, things turned. Okay, so it gives you, it tells you it's just about orderliness in life.
Or it's about the person who's sitting and hearing your case.
Absolutely, it's about orderliness at the end of the day, because it is an individual like me who sits and hears, who has been given power and mandated by all of us through the Constitution, who can just decide and say this is. Who
can take sides depending on the relationship.
I mean, and this is why people. We require people of integrity who can say, recuse themselves and say, I cannot handle this matter because this one is my relative, or because I know this person in this way. We have seen men and women in the courts of law, in the judiciary, recuse themselves, which for me is a good thing at the end of the day. So it's about orderliness, and really if we at the end of the day are going to want to live by the rule of law. We are going to be guided and want orderliness. We are going to follow what we have laid down for ourselves in the Constitution. So the Constitution is a set of principles we have given ourselves to live by. And any one of us, like I said, can interpret the way we think or the way we read. We read things. Sometimes, I'll tell you this, sometimes you have seen, not only in our jurisdiction, in our country, but even beyond, we have seen that those who are mandated have done a bad job, whereas you and me who are not mandated, who are on the street, we have even understood the law better. So the issue is that because I am not mandated, then I can't be the finality, because then we'll bring confusion.
More confusion.
Absolutely. This is why we say the courts of law should do that. Now, I mean, the legal minds from laws, from other institutions can have their own interpretation. But at the end of the day, the law that we have for ourselves is such that in order for us to live orderly, we have the courts of law that are mandated to give the final verdict. So we mustn't be in any way confused by the legal minds.
All right, to the viewers, we have 3 minutes in which you can call and ask one of those heating questions to Mr. Nyirenda here, bringing us more confusion on the desk insofar as the Constitution and interpreting the law is concerned. So if you have a question for him, you can call us now. We have about 3 minutes to wind up the show. Patrick?
Yeah, Mr. Nyirenda, we understand that this Constitution, when it was being developed, it was tipped to be among the best constitutions that Zambia was going to ever have. But what do you think contributed to the confusion that we're experiencing at the moment? Because was this Constitution enacted in totality as the people of Zambia wanted it, or some of the alterations also contributed to the problem we may be facing?
Comrade, and let me begin by answering. I didn't finish answering the last question. You said, do we need urgent constitutional reforms? We actually needed them like yesterday. You know, we can't continue to procrastinate on this matter. At least we continue in this confusion.
Exactly.
So we need a law that is simple, that every one of us can read. Even when, yes, we mandate the courts of law to be able to interpret the law, we must within ourselves say, oh, you are wrong because this thing is like this.
Yes.
So that even when we go to the courts of law, it's already done down there. The courts of law are just going to seal what we have already agreed. So for me, the backstops on the leadership today, we have President Hakainde Hichilema, we have the Minister of Justice, Honorable Haimbe, and the entire cabinet, the entire system within
the question you were requesting for.
All right.
Someone has to ask Mr. Nyirenda.
Hold on. Hello, good morning.
Hello.
Good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Please tell us where you're calling us from.
Yes, I'm calling from Kitwe.
Tell us your name.
Yeah, Melamed is my name.
All right. Please go ahead and ask our guest.
Yes, I've just found the program on the YouTube. I don't know what the discussion is there.
Oh, the discussion is the Kabushi by-election, halting the Kabushi and Kwacha by-election.
Okay. Okay, I heard that the election will be halted. But the problem is these two people committed a crime. See? Committed a crime. These two people committed a crime. They are supposed to be prosecuted, and the court was supposed to be working on that and be clear. That was one they came in contest. Not that they always do. Not big as you think. They still have cases to answer. Of forgery, the law forgery, and the Kabushi committing all those other cases was doing. They are supposed to just address this issue.
Okay.
Not just leave them like that, and that's what no.
All right.
So we are still waiting for the court. these guys deserve the role, be answerable and be clear. That's when they can be protected. That's my take. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Nyerenda. Would you like to speak to that, and then you pick it up from where you left it from?
I will not delve into that, because that is one of the matters that is before the High Court.
The High Court.
That's pending. Yeah. So the High Court will determine and will give us, direction on how to proceed.
Okay.
Yeah. But then I was talking about the system, the current administration. I think they must move quickly to be able to ensure that we have a better constitution. Remember that as Zambians, we have really made a number of progressive submissions to a number of constitutional reforms committees that were done. I did happen to be the principal researcher for the Electoral Reform Technical Committee that ran between 2002 to 2006. And we dealt comprehensively with matters to do with the electoral process and the elections. So if we get together all these things that were done, and in fact, if we just go to the last two constitutional review commissions, the Technical Committee on Drafting the Zambian Constitution and the Mungomba Constitutional Review Commissions, they have brilliant reports. All our suggestions and proposals as citizens are contained there. The challenge that we have with this constitution is that it was hastily done. Hastily done remember, it was done in the night. The people were sleeping in parliament, and it was done on partisan lines.
You were just saying yes.
If you create a constitution on partisan lines, you have such problems. So for us to get out of these problems that we are in today, we need serious and urgent constitutional reforms. And this is incumbent today on the leadership that is there. We can't continue to imbalance ourselves left, right, and center every day because of the constitution. Remember, just a few 1 or 2 years ago, the president did said the ministers were okay to stay in office even when parliament was dissolved.
Exactly.
Okay, but the same constitution says that when parliament is dissolved, there shouldn't be any cabinet positions, because then the cabinet ministers are drawn from the members of parliament. So it's the same constitution that has these two provisions. We can't continue on that trajectory. Now, that matter was taken to the courts of law, and the courts of law ruled that they were illegally in office and they must pay back. Now, if today this administration decides, when parliament is dissolved, this administration decides to say, okay, you remain in office because we want to work so that we deliver to the people, and somebody takes the matter to the court may rule, okay, because both provisions are in the constitution. The court may rule that because it is there in the constitution, then it's okay, they could stay. So we can't live like that when we want orderliness as a people. Right. So the current administration has a challenge before them. They must ensure that they expedite. They must tell us, give us the roadmap today, and not continue to procrastinate. It doesn't help us. It doesn't help them. It doesn't help anyone. We must move expeditiously on this matter.
All right. I take that as your last remarks, Mr. Nyerenda. Thank you so much for gracing our screens. In conversation, we had Mr. Guest Nyerenda from the Operation Young Vote. He is the executive director there, and the topic of discussion has been scrolling on your screens throughout. My name is Sharon Kalimbola, and on the other chair is Patrick Soko. Thank you so much for choosing us. Join us again tomorrow for another breakfast show. Good morning.